to Exponential Africa. We are at the Singularity EU Global Summit. It's been an incredible couple of days so far, and we are fortunate enough to be with a dear friend, Kunal Sood, who is an inventor, a disruptor, a change maker. He was a part of the GSP alumni from 2014, and he has got a company called NOVUS, where they're trying to take the first woman to the moon. Kunal, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, I mean, do you want to tell us a bit about your journey with Singularity University and with this exponential mindset and what you're trying to do today?
Sure. So, SU really transformed my life in many ways, more than just one. The biggest way it transformed my life was it gave me purpose, and not just purpose, but massive transformative purpose. So now whatever I do in life is largely around the idea of making the impossible possible. So I have a very moonshot mindset that comes into focus, and I really drive through to make the impossible possible. And I do that in smaller ways by, curating high-level meetings at the UN, where we've had the privilege of hosting some dignitaries like Aliko Dangote from Africa, as well as Mark Benioff, who's the CEO of Salesforce over here, Reid Hoffman, Peter Diamandis, of course, as a blessing came, and Anusha Ansari, Astro Teller. So that's one of the ways we do it, is to curate extraordinary experiences that inspire and create extraordinary citizens around the world that go out and make the world a better place and really start to re-engineer their minds to activate around the global goals of the UN, as well as our global grand challenges at SU, and really be the change we want to see in the world. Because here and now we need that more than ever before.
I mean, I can only just imagine the impact that you must be creating by having somebody like Peter or Anusha Ansari or Lita Ngodi actually coming to the UN and convening that meeting and having the right type of conversation where it's actually focusing on how do we fix these issues, with the right mindset of these bleeding edge thought leaders.
Yeah, what's really powerful is when you have Anusha Ansari and the President of the General Assembly agree on what needs to be done, right? That's the power of coming together. It's the idea of how innovation is at the heart of being able to use exponential technologies to solve for global grand challenges. And then you have this side, which is the policy and the drivers and the people that make the decisions, like Amina Mohammed, who's the Deputy General Secretary General right now. The Deputy Secretary General right now is Amina Mohammed, who actually is from Africa as well. She's from Nigeria. And when you bring these two forces together, it really starts to form in a way that what seemed impossible becomes possible. And then you have a whole new generation of people wanting to activate around it, using innovation, using technology, but also driving the forces behind policy and implementation and execution. Yes. So that's where the UN plays its part. XPRIZE and SU play the part around, really giving them fresh thought, food for thought, not only food for thought, but food for innovation. And that's where I think the magic happens.
Amazing, So it's actually almost like you are pushing the governance conversation to try and make the world a better place.
Yeah, we're trying to create what I call exponential governance. And of course, I learned that at SU.
Yeah.
But exponential governance is really around the idea of coming together without fear or favor. Governance is often seen as slow and laid back and conservative. And what happens with exponential governance is you push through that barrier of pain, and on the other side lies hope. And that hope is what drives us.
Yes.
A large part of the a large part of the UN's mandate is about supporting Africa. And some of my best friends actually at the UN are African. So for me, it's very much about, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. As long as you have the right heart set and mindset, you really can go the distance and make the impossible possible.
I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing with NOVUS?
Yeah.
What the concept behind that is?
Sure. So NOVUS is an idea that I had come about, believe it or not, when we did our first NOVUS right here in our backyard in San Francisco to reimagine the American dream. It was the time of the election, before the elections happened.
Okay.
And Donald Trump had announced that the American dream was dead. So for people like myself who had come to this country in hopes of living the American dream, it really it inspired me to really question and be curious versus like dismiss what he said and start a conversation around, is it really dead?
Yes.
And what does the new American dream look like? So we gathered around an extraordinary group of people who shared their visions, such as Naveen Jain
Yes.
and Tim Draper and Steve Jurvetson. Some really extraordinary people shared their visions around the American dream. And then I was invited to the UN, and our motto over there really elevated to transform the world. And when that happened, we had such a gift where we just opened the gates of the impossible and took over the UN General Assembly room.
Wow.
And that was just unbelievable. And we had Peter Diamandis and Anusha Ansari and a Grammy Award-winning artist, Ricky Cage. And we really saw for the first time what's possible when you bring a group of diverse and inclusive citizens from within the UN and outside around the world to start to think about how can we solve for these 17 global goals? How can we not only solve for them, but how can we usher in a whole new era of human prosperity and flourishing?
Amazing.
So we did that using science, innovation, and technology, but at the heart of it was really the human element. And what I feel here and now is missing is that human element, that leadership that drives us forward into the future. Because really speaking today, whether it's Africa or the United States, we don't have a resource problem anymore. Africa has enough oil and diamonds to serve us for the next 500 years if we tap into the resource. It's really a leadership problem that I see that needs to evolve into humanity's consciousness. We must create not just exponential, but conscious leaders with a sense of Ubuntu, which is an amazing...
Yes, exactly. That's on my bracelet.
Yeah, exactly. It comes from Africa.
Yeah.
And if we find that Ubuntu, then we can create what I consider the superorganism. It's a scientific term for where you and I are strong alone, but together we are much stronger. And
Yes. I am because we are.
Exactly. I am because we are, right?
Yes.
So that's the superorganism that I feel we need to bring into the world today in order to really usher in a new era of extraordinary citizenship.
That's so exciting. I mean, and just some of your South African friends, I know you've got a couple of friends in South Africa.
Yeah.
You know, are they on this mission with you? Are you working with them?
You know, it's interesting.
Who are they?
So there was a new gentleman I just met at my recent summit where we endeavored to put the first woman on the moon by 2024. It's a campaign called First Woman. And the dream is to really put the first woman on the moon because at the seat of it, it was not about the woman being on the moon, but about men and women coming together to make the impossible possible.
Yes.
To change the narrative around, you know, what's happening here and now, to really look at the positive attributes of how men and women, when we do unite, it really is a miracle, and we can make miracles happen that way. So one of the gentlemen that was there was this gentleman called Ramaphosa. He's the son of the president, I think.
Yes, Cyril, that's our president, yeah.
Exactly. So Tumelo is his name, and he's an extraordinary human being doing some unbelievable work with farms back home to make the farms really resistant and organic and really bring, you know, the new technology of digital biology as well as the old technology of urban farming and organic farming together to usher in a higher sense of what's possible for the future.
Amazing.
And the second person who I love, who's been there for me in my past, has been this gentleman called Lebo M, who actually inspired the work I do because I lost someone very dear to me when I was when I started this work. Someone ended his life, and there was a song in Lion King called "He Lives in Me." He was my godfather. And Lebo M sang that song for me at my first summit at the UN.
Incredible.
And it was pretty amazing how that song
He was a composer of the line?
Exactly. He was
one of the composers, yeah.
Exactly. So he flew in for that. And, you know, they're allies, and more than allies, they're well-wishers, which is so important. Because I think goodwill has its own force that allows you to perpetuate whatever your moonshot is. Because the more goodwill you have, it's kind of like rocket fuel for the future. You know, so if you can garner a lot of goodwill in your life, I think that's the most powerful, invisible rocket fuel that allows you to reach your destiny.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. Well, we've run out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really insightful.
Yeah.
If you like this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and on our podcast, and keep smiling. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.